Hi, everybody. It's Chris here. A big welcome to today's live session. And if you're joining us live for the first time, a big welcome to Tiger Spreadsheet Solutions. I'm really excited about this one. It is live month. Yes, October 22. We're going live 4 times a week. That's 17 times in October. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday in October, we're going to be live doing this. What are we going to be doing? Well, we're actually continuing a series which we started way back in 2020 and I just didn't get around to finishing, and that is the 30 Excel VBA real world problems and solutions series. So what is this all about? Let me tell you quickly. If you're watching on replay, just skip through. If you want to go straight through to the demonstration, well, I was thinking, what's the best way to teach VBA and to actually affect the lives and careers of people like you? And I was thinking, do I just need to teach more code, more VBA? And then I thought, no, there's more to it than that. And what I did was I went through a load of my projects back in 2020, and I picked out 30 of the things that occur commonly in my projects. And these are like snippets of code. They're specific situations. They're things I'm doing all the time. These things were occurring again and again and again on my Excel development project. So I thought, rather than just trying to teach all of VBA, let's teach the specific parts of VBA that people are actually going to use in their practice. That's the idea. So if you can follow along with this series, we're going to have fun. It's going to be interactive, but it should actually have a disproportionate benefit on your Excel VBA learning. So in just a second, I'm going to get the screen up here, and we're going to get started with some Excel VBA programming. And as always, make sure you're working along with me. I can see we've got some people live with us today. Fantastic stuff. Let's see who's live with us. Albert's with us. Big welcome to Albert. How are you doing? Thanks for your email over the weekend, Albert. Always good to hear from people. Bart's with us as well. Long-time support of the channel. Big welcome to Bart, and Jazz as well, another long-time support of the channel. Welcome, Jazz. How are you doing? Anybody else in the chat? Make sure you say hello in the chat, of course. Ebenezer is with us, and Ebenezer says, I've tried many times to learn VBA without a lot of success. Would like to take things serious starting with this series. Fantastic, Ebenezer. You're in the right place. So happy you've chosen us. What I would say is below this video in the description, I've put our best beginner series for Excel VBA. So yeah, these live sessions, they're more aimed at kind of post-beginner. So people who know a little bit of VBA, they're looking to push ahead. Beginners will be fine, but it'll take a bit of effort on your part. If you're looking for an absolute beginner series, look in the description below this video. Who else is with us? Big welcome to Gareth. How are you doing? And whereabouts are you based, Gareth? And Gareth is just saying, make sure you refresh the page. So there might have been some problems with a live session getting going. So make sure you do that. Hopefully you're with us. Big welcome to Michael, long-term support of the channel. How are you doing, Michael? Good to see you. And we have a newbie, DWT51. Guess I had better go back to session 1. I'd say stay with us live. DWT, stay with us live today. Get to know a few of the people in the chat, get to know me a bit. And then you can see the playlist for this series below this video. So after the session, you can go and start working through the playlist. This is video 14. So as I said, a big welcome. Make sure you say hello in the chat. And later, I'll put the invite link in the chat later in the session. That means you can join me live in the stream if you'd like to ask me a few questions. I always love it when people join me live in the stream. So without further ado, let's get into our task today. Now, if you followed the series in 2020, can you remember this? This is our random problem selector. Now, a joke somebody made last time, they said, well, I don't need a random problem generator. I have my wife. I don't agree with that. But this is the random problem generator. And it's those problems, those 30 problems that I've found occur all the time in my Excel work. We're going to take them off one by one in this series. So now we're down to 17. That's because we've already done 13 streams, so we've got 17 left. And what we do every day when we do these streams, I don't know what we're going to cover. We're going to randomly choose one using, of course, an Excel VBA-based tool, which is the random problem generator. So I'm going to hit start. There go the balls, and we've got this little animated effect. Can anybody guess how this little animated effect is working? This is just Excel. It's just a few bits of Excel working together to create this effect. But we've got this idea of a lottery, the ball's bouncing around, and then our winning ball is going to give us the topic for today's session. Now, I will say If it's not a really nice, juicy topic, I might try a different topic because a few of the topics are a little bit obscure, important, but not the most important topics. So let's see what the topic is. And it says match to the nearest date. Okay. We're talking about dates today. We're going to match to the nearest date. Okay. So are you working with dates in Excel? If you've done any degree of Excel work, you would have found that dates are quite challenging in Excel. The specific challenge we're going to take on today is we're going to take a fairly random date, look through a set of random dates, and then try to match to the nearest date. Okay, match the nearest date. So my first question for you is, how would you do this with Excel or with Excel VBA? How would you do this with Excel? So we've got one target date, if you like, and then I'm going to create in a second, because all of the random data that we use when we're doing the demonstrations, I create them in the session. I'll create a random data set in a session. How would you do this in Excel using VBA? Using formulae? Let's get some ideas going in the chat. We want to match the nearest date, but a bit of context, bit of background to this particular job. I do a lot of work with football traders, so analyzing football data, football matches. So I spend a lot of time working with databases of football matches. And often we're trying to isolate a date range, from, I don't know, November until January, whatever it might be. So that involves trying to identify a date in a range of dates. So what ideas have we got, guys? Can't see any ideas coming in yet from the chat, but what ideas have we got? And let me just deal with Jazz's comment here. Chris, did you just say you didn't? Did you just say you don't need a random problem generator because you have your wife? Jazz, it wasn't me who said that. When we did this series last time, somebody in the chat said that. And believe me, I'm absolutely sure my wife would say that about me. Anyway, Jazz. So let's go on with this one. Now, in this series, as I said, we create the data in the session. And I think that's all good practice. That's all good practice for us. But before we do that, I'm just going to go back to the full screen view. I'm going to open a new Excel file. So I'm just opening up Excel here, and then I'm going to save it. So make sure you're set up for VBA. If you don't know how to get set up for VBA, link in the video description below this video. You can go to our Excel VBA building blocks series, and it will take you through step by step how to get your system set up for VBA. It doesn't take too long, but there are a few things that you have to look out for. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save this on my system. So I'm saving to macro-enabled workbook format, and this is going to be live 14 demo. Then we're going to be ready to rock. Okay, let's go back to our view here. So I've got some ideas coming in. So Jazz is saying the rand between formula. Absolutely. So for generating random numbers, rand between is a great formula to use. What about generating random dates? Can you build on that idea, Jazz, for generating random dates? What's the key concept for understanding how to generate random dates in Excel? Big welcome to Michael. Michael's got a good idea here. Using count ifs. Interesting. So Michael is saying, could we count the number of entries with a date that's later than the date that we're looking at? Possibly. And Henrik is saying hello to everybody. Henrik, how are you doing? Another long time support of the channel. And Katie is with us. Big welcome to Katie. How are you doing? Okay, so let's generate the random data first. So we're going to have mini lecture on dates in Excel. Now, Excel understands dates as numbers. Dates are difficult. If you can understand just a few things, you can make them a lot easier. Okay. So the first thing to understand is just try this. Just use the today formula. So I've just typed in today and then hit enter, and it's going to give us today's date, 3rd of October, 2022. I'm going to copy this and then paste it, Control-C, Control-Alt-V as a value. Now, what value is Excel going to return now? If I convert this to a value, that wasn't what I thought would happen, actually. Actually, what I have to do is not convert to a value. I have to clear the formatting. So Alt-H-E-F, it's going to clear the formatting, Alt-H-E-F. That gives us 44,837. Why do we get 44,837 for today? Why is it for 44,837? Well, The way dates work in Excel, I'm going to do kind of the reverse demonstration this time. I'm just going to type in a 1 and then format it as a date. Then what's going to happen? Format it as a short date. We can see that now becomes the 1st of January 1900. And according to Excel, this reveals a little bit about how Excel thinks about dates. The first, Excel allocates each day a day number, and day number 1 for Excel is the 1st of January 1900. So today is 44,836 days after the 1st of January 1900. And who was, did they have Excel at the turn of the 20th century? Don't think they did. God, they were missing out, weren't they? They had all of that to come, all of that to come. Once I read a little bit about the history of spreadsheets, and though they didn't have computerized Excel, people basically had spreadsheets because it's based on an accounting ledger and things going in and out and stuff. Anyway, we'll do that another time maybe. So they had the concept, they just didn't have the automation. They didn't have the software. So this is the idea. So if I reverse the process and then format. Hi everybody, apologies for that. Can you let me know in the chat that you can see me, you can hear me? Just had some kind of power outage. Everything went off, and but we seem to be back now. So apologies for that. Not much I can do about it. Everything just switched off, but I've managed to switch off, get back in. So guys, can you let me know in the chat that you can see me and you can hear me, and we will continue. So I was about to reverse this process, and we've got a number. So if we convert that number to a date, we're going to really be able to consolidate that understanding. So Excel's under that date formatting, Excel just sees a number. Okay. Now that's interesting for us if we're creating a random data set, because we can use that idea of a whole number and then move away from that whole number using run between to give us a bit of a data set. So thank you, Sambo. How you doing, my friend? Good to see you today. Thank you, Alberto, Gareth, Ebenezer, and everybody else. Gareth says power outages aren't the best. That's the first time it's ever happened. First time it's ever happened live. Occasionally these things happen. Yeah, we just got to power on, haven't we? Anyway, let's get our random data set going. So I'm going to use today again. Yeah, we could use any date here. And then, you know, let's, broadly speaking, let's try to simulate let's try to create something akin to what a data set containing football matches would look like. So you'll have lots of games on one day, and then you might have a break of 3 days or 7 days, and then another load of games. Shall we get a little bit technical? Let's say, anyway, because Excel understands dates as whole numbers, we can just do something like this. So equals this cell plus, and then let's say ran between here. Let's say ran between 3 and 8, something like that. Okay, that just gives us a little period of days. And we can take that down. We've got 6th of October. And I'm just holding down the shift key and down arrow. Going to take it up to just above my head here, Control D. That gives us a very simple data set there. Okay, and we're just going to convert these formally to values. So Control Shift down, Control C, Control Alt V and V on the Windows PC, and that's it. That's it. We've got our random data set consisting of some dates. Yeah, I was going to get a little bit geeky and try to make it really similar to what a football database would look like in terms of the distribution of the dates, but we're not going to go too far into that considering we're already halfway through the stream today. Good. So we've got a data set. So now let's say target date here. Alt H O W12 should do the job here. Alt H BA allows me to put all of the borders on the cell. So let's say target date. So for example, I want to put the 11th of November in here. And then it's going to tell me the row. The row that's, or let's say sequence number. I'm going to say sequence number. So what's the sequence number of the closest piece of data? Can we do that? Let's say closest match here. Closest match. And then let's say what the sequence number is. And just to reinforce that idea of a sequence number, let's go Control Space Bar, Control Shift Plus. And let's say equals 1 plus 1 here. That cell plus 1, Control D. This will give us the sequence numbers and convert those to values again. So Control C, Control Alt V, V. And we can say SEQ at the top here and then date. Okay, just to reinforce this idea that the numbers are in a sequence, and if we want to match to the closest number, because that's what we're trying to do, then could we say what the closest match is and then pick out the sequence, pick out the row number within this data set. Okay, so this is all what we call problem structuring, planning and conceptualization, talking through the problem. I know a lot of people will be bored by this, but if you can conceptualize the problem clearly, get it in clear in your head, you are going to avoid a lot of problems later. So, I mean, my first thought here, I don't think anybody said in the chat, which I was quite surprised with, but my first thought here would be to use the match formula. Okay, and we're going to get some VBA solutions too, of course, but often doing it using a formula in the spreadsheet, that's a good way to kind of develop a solution to test a concept. So if I want to look up this value, which is our target date, and then the lookup array here. So remember, the match formula is going to take a value and then try to find it in a column or in a row, and then tell us how far down that column or how far along that row that value is. So it's matching a value in a range of values. So we say to Excel, we want to find this value in this range, and then another comma. Then we have a few options here. So if I say 0 for exact match, now I can see this data doesn't match exactly here. So we're going to get a value not available error. Okay, so now you're beginning to feel some of the problems that I was having when I was trying to do this. I was trying to match a date in a data set. So using the match with exact match isn't going to work if the date doesn't actually appear in the data set. What other options have we got? If we say 1 less than, that gives us 7. So that's quite useful actually. So it's saying on row 7 is the highest value that's lower than the value we're trying to match to, which is the 11th. That's possibly useful, yeah. And then what if we do -1? That should be the opposite, but is that going to work? Okay, that returns a value not available error too. I'm not absolutely sure why that is. To be honest, I only ever use the exact match with match usually. So I'm not absolutely sure why that is. So I'm actually working through the exact process I went through in a much more drawn out and painful and frustrating way when I was trying to do this on a consulting project. You know, I was trying to match to a date. So I was having some problems using a formula. So I thought, okay, can I just use VBA to do this job? Can we just use VBA to do this job? So finally he's going to do some VBA. Yeah, I'm kind of feeling your pain today. You know, after my inevitable rambling introduction and a power outage, I'm feeling your pain. I should just get on with it sometimes. Definitely. Got some ideas coming in. Katie, absolutely. I've been trying to figure this out for years. I think there's a lot of people. I think there's a lot of people who will be struggling with dates in Excel. So this is all good stuff. And just put a formula in the chat. So combining those random between elements together. So this is going to create some kind of random date. So very nice. This is what I love to see, people doing their own experimentation. And Albie says, yeah, since there is indeed a problem with the 31st of February. Yeah, absolutely. Right. So we've got the VBA editor open. And once again, if your system's not set up for Excel VBA, go to the video description, Excel VBA building blocks series, the first video in that series. We go from absolute beginner level to get your system set up for Excel VBA. So code generally lives in modules. So we're going to go ahead and put a module in. What do we do when we create a module? Let's say altogether class. I can almost hear it. I can almost hear it through my headphones here, option explicit. And all option explicit does is it means we have to be a little bit more deliberate and explicit about the language we're using in VBA, particularly variables. And quick explanation, it helps us avoid spelling mistakes in variables, which if you're not using option explicit in VBA, you would have wasted a lot of time with a silly spelling mistake in a variable. Okay, so let's create a macro and let's give it an informative name. So I'm going to say match to date here. Match to date with the underscores, of course, because a macro name has to be a single word. And we always try to give it an informative name. So don't just call it macro 1 or something like that. Give it a name that tells you what the macro is going to do. Right. So what do we want to do here? So once again, planning and conceptualization. So I want to loop through the data set here. So whenever we're talking about looping through a data set, automatically I'm thinking, okay, what's our approach going to be? Is it going to be a static approach? Is it going to be a dynamic approach? We'll just do a static approach today, but elsewhere in this series and elsewhere on the channel, we'll cover a dynamic approach. So by a static approach, we're just going to literally type in this range. So what is it? C4 to C17. We're going to reference that range in Excel VBA. That wouldn't be useful, would it, if the size of the data set was changing, which it almost always is. That's why we need a dynamic approach. We cover that elsewhere in this series, and you would have heard me talking about that many times on the channel as well. So a static approach here, we're going to loop through the data set. Let's save the target date to a variable. To variable. Okay, and then we want to loop down the data set until, so we're starting here, until the value in the data set is greater than the target date. Until value in data set is greater than target date. Did you see what I did then? I literally kind of acted out what I'm trying to do, because I'm not very good at articulating things logically. Well, I'm not very good at articulating things logically quickly. It really takes me time to think it through. So I was thinking, okay, that's our target date, the 11th. So what's our logic going to be? Well, this number, the 3rd, is less than, this number is less than the 10th. And then until we get to the 12th, when it's actually more than. Okay, so we want to loop down the data set until we find a value that's greater than the target date, and then save the row, save the sequence number of the row we're on, something like that. Okay, let's see if we can do this. That's it, something like that. So always start my VBA routines in this way. Once again, this is planning and conceptualization. This would actually called pseudocode. So we're writing out the instructions for the code in English or in your own language. That gives you an easy to understand blueprint that you can use as a blueprint, as a framework for creating that code, because writing VBA is difficult. Articulating yourself in your own language is a lot easier. So if we can get that concept clear, that's a great starting point. And Henrik is banging the drum for the for each loop. Yes, I think that is what we're going to do, Henrik. Good, and Bart is saying, yes, possibility is using if or in case. Yes, so some kind of that concept of conditionality, we're going to see that coming into play now. Good, so let's say dim Chris cell as range. So this variable, because we're looping through cells here, I'm using what's called an object variable. And for VBA, that's just representing those cells that we're looping through. So that dim Chris cell as range. And then we have three main loop types in Excel: a for each loop, a for next loop, and a do until loop. Now, I recommend, if you're like, which one of those should I learn, Chris? I'd say a for each loop. You can get 95% of jobs done with a for each loop anyway. And the syntax we're using here is for each variable name. Remember, we just declared the variable above. So for each variable name in a collection. Okay, so for each Chris cell in range. So this is the collection, the range of cells that we want to loop through. So it starts on C4 and ends on C17. As I said, we're going to be happy today with just a static approach. That's what we call a static coding approach, because if there's more data added, this code isn't going to work. We need what's called a dynamic approach. And then we say next Chris cell here. Now, this fundamental construct we've just set up for each variable name in collection and then next variable name, that's what I call your looping blueprint. And somewhere on the channel, we've got a video called the loop blueprints. So whenever you're using a for each loop, like we're looping through cells on a spreadsheet, you could loop through active workbooks, you could loop through sheets in a file, you could loop through shapes on a sheet, anything you can kind of articulate logically in that way. Excel consists of objects and collections. A for each loop is going to help you there. Okay, so now I want to confirm, is this actually working? So I'm going to say message box Chris cell. Now this should just externalize the value of the cell. If I just say Chris cell and then nothing else, it will externalize the default property, which is the value. For completeness, I'll put the value in, and then we're into testing. So I'm going to hit the F8 key here. You can also go to debug and step into, and I just want to know this basic infrastructure that we've set up, is it actually working? Hit the F8 key again. We've got 3rd of the 10th, 2022. So if I hit F8 now, what value is going to flash up? 10th of the 10th, 22. 14th of the 10th, 22. So this shows me the basic structure seems to be working okay. I'm going to reset the code there. Okay, so we're looping through those cells. So what's our logic? Now, this is the tricky bit for me. Okay, so to make this easier for myself, I'm going to drop that annotation, that comment that I wrote in the planning stage. I'm going to drop it in here. So loop down the data set until the value in the data set is greater than the target date. So we are assuming, of course, and usually you'll find this with data anyway, we're assuming that the data is organized chronologically with the oldest dates going to the newest dates. That is an assumption we're making. That's a fairly sensible assumption to make. If your data wasn't organized like that, you could always use VBA to sort the data, of course. Who's checking in? Big welcome to DC. Morning, DC. How are you doing? And Bart's absolutely right here. Yeah, I love this idea. For each is kind of the big brother of the loops, I think. Yeah, a for each loop allows you to get lots of stuff done. Okay, so what's our logic here? You see how I'm putting off articulating this complex logic here until the value in the data set is greater than the target date. Okay, so I'm going to say if Chris cell is more than, and then the value in F4 here. So I can just say range F4. Then I'm going to say message box flash up end if here. So here we've got a conditional statement. And once again, if you've never seen a conditional statement before, lots of options for learning about it on our channel in the video description below. Excel VBA building blocks, 6 beginner videos. We've got 1 video in there about conditional statements. But the idea of conditionality is if something is happening, if this condition is met, we're going to do what's in the conditional statement. If the condition is not met, we're going to skip this code. We're not going to do what's sitting in here. So if Chris cell is more than F4, which is our target date, then I'm going to flash up. I'm going to say message box Chris cell. Okay, will give me the date. I'm going to say Chris cell.address just to get us started here. Okay, so what would we expect to happen here? Let's change our target date. I'm going to change our target date to the 13th of October. So we're not spending so much time looping down this data set. Right, I'm going to hit the F8 key. We're going to see this idea of conditionality in action. Still got that message box. So because this condition isn't met, The value in the data set is the 3rd of October. Our target value is the 13th. So this condition isn't met. We're not running that code. And then we're going to the 10th. So what would we expect to happen now? Always ask yourself that question, that what if question. What would we expect to happen now? We'd expect not to go into the conditional statement, but what would happen now? Our target date is the 13th. Now, the value in the cell we're looping through is the 14th. So this condition should be met, which it is. And we can see we're now flashing up our message box. So we've got C6 there. That's just giving us the cell address. C6, which is here. Sorry. So I'm getting confused by the sequence numbers and the row numbers there. Yeah, so that seems to work. This is the basic idea. So we've got some powerful techniques working together. We've got a loop working together with a conditional statement to allow us to pick out that date. Okay. Yeah, great question here from Albie. So Albie is saying, Albert, no, it's Appy, isn't it? It's Appy, isn't it? Okay, so sorry, Albert. Albert, shall I call you Appy or Albert? Mr. Post, you tell me what to call you. When do you use the range F4.value and when not? So my recommendation, Albert, is that you use it all the time. Okay. So Chris cell.value, you use it all the time. That's because when we're learning code, and I definitely still consider that I'm still learning, it's just good to be complete. It's good to be complete with the syntax. That's going to develop a good habit that's going to help you through your coding career. However, if you don't put the property there, if you don't do that, then Excel will take the default property, which is value. So you can get away with that. You can get away with just saying Chris cell in that particular situation. A couple of things, guys, before we finish this off, I'm going to put the invite link in the chat. So if you've been inspired by today's session, if you weren't too put off by our dramatic power outage, which happened about 10 minutes ago, very welcome to join me in the chat. Now, all that happens is you click through that link, then you've got to close down the YouTube interface. That takes you through to what we call the backstage area. Close down the YouTube interface. You'll be able to watch in the backstage area. I can see you drop in. I'll say something like, okay, give me the thumbs up if you're ready to come in. Then we can bring you into the stream and we can have a bit of a chat. And I'd absolutely love to have a chat with you. And let me tell you about Members Monday too. So if you're like, well, I love Tiger's live content, I like the kind of sense of community we have. We've got Bart in the chat, we've got Jazz in the chat. I'd like to hang out with these people in a supported learning environment. I'd like to hang out with Chris a bit more too. Thank you. Then you need to know about Members Monday. So you can head over to the website, find out about Members Monday, but Members Monday is our Excel VBA learning community. You can get Excel help and answers to your Excel questions from knowledgeable, friendly, like-minded people on our community page. Yeah, we do 2 live sessions a month. You get access to all of the Members Monday library, which has never been shown publicly. There's 106 sessions in there. It's all indexed now in our content navigator, and you get to support the Tiger Excel revolution. Right, guys who come in. So Henrik and Gareth, I can see you coming in. Gareth, I can't see your camera, so I wouldn't be able to bring you in the stream. But Henrik, if you give me 5 minutes or so to finish this, and then I'll bring you into the stream. Fantastic stuff. Okay, good. Members Monday, guys, just head over to the website, tigerspreadsheetsolutions.co.uk, and then communities. You can learn about Members Monday there. We'd love to have you in that. Okay, so at the moment, we've managed to get, it's not quite the closest match, isn't it? But it's a close match. It's a close match to the date. And maybe you could refine this code a little more to get what's absolutely the closest match. But we wanted to find the closest match. So we want to put that into a cell. And then we want to find the sequence number. Okay, the sequence number is here. So if you're watching on the replay, stop the video now. See if you can do those things yourself. So when we've found that match, we don't want the message box there. What we actually want to do is type in the value here. So I'm going to say range F5. This is F5. F5, I'm going to say dot value, not necessary to say dot value, but for completeness, as per our discussion just now, good idea to put that in. Range F5 dot value equals, so this is going to be Chris cell. And for the sequence number, how would we get that sequence number? Well, that's going to be F6. So range F6 dot value equals, and then we're going to say Chris cell offset and 0 minus 1 there. Okay, 0 minus 1. So offset is a real favorite on the Tiger channel. Position control allows you to navigate around the cells in Excel. Offset, we need a starting point, and that's Chris cell. So that's the cell we're looping through. Then we're going to move 0 rows down, need a comma in there, 0 rows down, and -1 columns across. So we're going to stay on the same row and then go 1 column to the left, because a positive number would take us right and a negative number would take us left. So what are we expecting to happen now? Well, hopefully we get our closest match written in here and the sequence number of that match written in here. Let's give it a go. It's the moment of truth. We're going to have a punch the air moment here. Going to hit play. Now can you see the error I've made here? Okay, it does seem to be working, but because I've still got the message box here, I'm going to have to click through all these message boxes, but it shouldn't take too long. And there we go. Okay, so we don't need this anymore. That did seem to work. So this is a typical problem with dates. It did work, but because we don't have the right formatting, it doesn't quite look right. So I'm going to copy the formatting down. Control C, Control Alt V and T. Doesn't quite look right, does it? Okay, let's hope it works now. Oh, that's not right, is it? Sequence number 14. Okay, let's see what happens. I'm going to hit play here. Closest match. Oh, okay. Yes. What we need to do is just put exit sub here. So what was happening is, because I didn't put exit sub is just going to exit the routine. It just worked all the way down to the bottom of the data set. And each time it was putting the date in and that sequence number. So if I hit play now, what we should find is, yeah, this is, if not the closest match, it's pretty close. It follows some kind of logic. And as I said, you could refine this code and improve it. Very good. Okay, so that's pretty much concludes today's session. We're going to get Henrik in just a second to have a chat, but this is the Excel VBA 30 real-world problems and solutions and working with dates, guys. You've got to have a strategy for working with dates, and this is based very closely on a problem I had to solve a couple of years ago. Looping through dates, had to find a specific date in a set of dates. So this is the approach that I recommend. Okay, so thank you to Henrik for joining us today. I'm going to add Henrik to the stream here. Henrik, how are you doing?
I am fine. I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you perfectly well, Henrik. Yeah, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. It's nice to follow your stream.
Thanks, Henrik. No, it's always good to have you, and you've been very supportive over the years, so I appreciate that. Did you enjoy today's session?
Yes, it was quite interesting. I'm working with dates almost every day, so it's interesting to see what you can do with VBA.
Very good. Very good. And what capacity are you using Excel in? Are you using it for your job, Henrik, or just for fun? Or
I use it in my job. I work as an accountant.
Yep.
And I'm using Excel and also VBA in my daily work, so to say.
Okay, fantastic stuff. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. And yeah, go on, Henrik. Yeah, tell me.
I'm quite new at my job, but I see possibilities to use VBA in the future.
Good.
But nowadays I have so much to do, so I don't have so much time to develop the VBA code.
Well, it takes time. Absolutely,
Yes.
It takes time. But I would say it's well worth the time investment
Yes.
for what it will get you back. Yeah,
Yes.
fantastic stuff. And give us your favorite VBA tip, Henrik. Have you got or for the learners out there, what would be your tip for learning VBA, or a little VBA tip? What do you think?
I will definitely say use YouTube.
Yep.
And try to search for videos that could show possibilities with VBA that you are looking for. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think.
But you have to be you have to have the attitude to solve the problem all the time. It's not easy in the beginning, but it takes time to learn VBA, I would say.
Absolutely, 100%. But I think there's two things there. You're saying appreciate the possibilities. So certainly learning what's possible. Maybe get on YouTube and have a look at what's possible in VBA. And try not to feel too demotivated by that. Try to let that light a fire within you. This might be possible in VBA, and then Henrik's absolutely right. You know, learning is difficult, so you've got to bring the right attitude. But there's lots of support, isn't there? Lots of support on YouTube. You know, we do our free
Yes.
sessions, and
Yes.
I'm absolutely sure you can find a YouTuber who's going to help you with your learning journey.
Yep.
Good, fantastic, Henrik. Well, thanks so much for joining us. And will you be with us tomorrow, Henrik?
I hope so. Is it the same time?
Same time tomorrow. So 4 o'clock, guys, 4 o'clock UK time. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday this week, guys. Okay, Henrik, take care. I'll see you tomorrow. Yep. Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye. Fantastic. So thank you so much to Henrik for joining us today. Let me just go through some comments here. So Bart's talking about Members Monday. Absolutely, one of our long-term members. And yeah, we absolutely recommend Members Monday. We're doing this all the time. You know, if you're following us on YouTube, then you might be waiting for the next set of live material or whenever it might be. We don't do much live stuff these days. There's lots of reasons for that to do with business and content strategy and stuff. There's lots of good reasons for that. But in Members Monday, we do 2 live sessions a month and you get to be part of a community, all of that good stuff. So just go to the website, Members Monday. It's so cheap for what you get. Seriously, it's a ridiculously cheap price. It's like master's level education for ridiculously cheap money. So we'd love to see you in that. Gareth says, thanks. So thank you, Gareth. Yeah, Gareth, I can see you in the backstage area, but I can't see your camera, you see. So maybe tomorrow, if you want to come in, get your camera going, and then we can get you into the stream. Yeah, DC says, I always explain to my bosses that it takes me 2 to 3 times as long to do a task while building the code to automate something, but afterwards the time savings can be 50 to 95%. This totally resonates with me. When you're doing something, yeah, I'm always thinking, am I going to do this task again? If I'm going to do it again at least once, then I'm thinking I have to automate this task now. I have to automate it, and that means we can do it at the click of a button next time. And yes, if you can foster a positive addiction to VBA, you're always going to be looking for these opportunities to automate tasks. Ebenezer says, thank you. Thank you, Ebenezer. Really good to see you today. Hope to see you tomorrow. And Sambo as well. Thank you to you, Sambo. Always appreciate the support. And Katie says, thank you to you too, Katie. Okay, guys, really hope to see you tomorrow. 30 real world Excel VBA problem solutions. Same time tomorrow, 4 o'clock UK time. Take care.